The sun had long dipped beneath the horizon, leaving behind a soft orange glow that melted into the darkening sea. The small fishing village of Mabini, Batangas, was winding down after another long day. The fishermen were pulling their boats ashore, the smell of salt and seaweed mingling with the faint scent of grilled fish. Crickets had begun their nightly chorus, and the world felt still, except for one voice that rose above the waves. Sitting on a piece of driftwood near the old dock was Leo Santiago, a young man in his early 20s, barefoot and wearing a faded white shirt. His guitar, worn smooth from years of use, rested gently on his lap. It was his most precious possession, a gift from his late father. A fisherman used to hum old Filipino folk songs as he cast his nets under the moonlight. Now Leo played those same songs, his fingers tracing the strings like they were old friends. His voice carried through the quiet night, rich, soulful, and tinged with something that could only be described as longing. Nak, nazan ka na ang puso kong laging umasa. The song floated through the humid air, brushing against the wooden shacks, the sleeping dogs and the hearts of those still awake. Old man Rogelio, who sold coconuts by day, sat by his window and smiled. That boy, he muttered to his wife, he sings like he's carrying the whole ocean inside him. For Leo, the ocean wasn't just scenery, it was memory, promise and pain. It had taken his father years ago during a storm that should have never been sailed into. But even as the tragedy scarred their family, it also gave Leo something, a reason to sing. His father used to tell him, "Anak, the sea listens to those who sing with truth." And every night since, Leo sang as if his father was still out there, listening from somewhere beyond the horizon. His mother, Aling Teresa, watched him from their small bamboo window. Her hands, roughened by years of mending nets, paused as she looked at her son. He was so much like his father, gentle, quiet, with eyes that always seemed to search for something just out of reach. She whispered softly, "If only the world could hear you, Leo, they'd understand what kind of heart you have." But Leo wasn't thinking about the world. He was thinking about her, about the way she'd given up everything after his father's death, working endless hours cleaning fish at the market, just so he could finish high school. He'd wanted to go to college, maybe study music. But life in Mabini didn't leave much room for dreams. Still, Leo had something stronger than ambition. He had purpose. Music wasn't just his escape, it was his way of keeping his family's love alive. Every song he sang was a thank you to his mother and a prayer for his father. That night, a soft breeze carried the faint sound of his guitar further than usual. On the nearby pier, a group of tourists had stopped for late-night snacks. One of them, a young woman from Manila named Clara, heard the melody and turned her head. "Who's singing?" she asked a local vendor. The vendor smiled proudly. "That's Leo, our village singer. He's been singing by the sea since he was a boy. Never misses a night." Clara was enchanted. She took out her phone and began recording. She zoomed in on the young man's face as he sang under the dim moonlight. His eyes were closed, his expression pure and unguarded. It wasn't a performance, it was a conversation between him and the stars. When Leo finished, the tourists applauded softly from afar. Embarrassed, he gave a small wave and a shy smile. "Salamat po," he said, his cheeks warm. Clara approached him. "You have such a beautiful voice," she said, still holding her phone.
"You should be on TV.
"People need to hear this?" Leo laughed lightly.
No ma'am.
"I'm happy singing here. The sea is my audience. But I recorded you," she said excitedly. "Maybe others will love it too." Leo didn't think much of it. Many had said the same before. People passed through, took photos, recorded videos, but nothing ever came of it. He just nodded politely and packed his guitar. That night, as he walked home barefoot on the sandy path, he looked up at the sky. "Pay," he whispered, "I wonder if my voice ever reaches you." He didn't know it yet, but that night, his song did reach someone, and not just the heavens. The next morning, the sleepy town woke to an unusual buzz. Leo was still half asleep when his phone began to vibrate. He rubbed his eyes and squinted at the screen. Hundreds of notifications, messages, and calls.
"Leo, you're famous,"
shouted his neighbor, running to his hut.
The video of you singing went viral. Millions of people watched it.
Leo blinked, confused.
"What video? The one by the sea?"
"The tourist posted it online." "Look," they crowded around a small smartphone. There he was, sitting by the dock, eyes closed, singing his heart out. The caption read, "Meet Leo Santiago, the voice that makes the sea cry." Within hours, major Filipino news outlets had shared it. The comments flooded in. "He sounds like Freddie Aguilar. I haven't felt this much emotion in a song for years. Who is this boy? He deserves to be heard around the world." Leo stared at the screen, speechless. His mother, who had been listening from the doorway, put her hand to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. "Anak," she whispered. "Your papa must be smiling right now." That night, when Leo returned to the dock, the crowd was larger. People came from nearby towns just to hear him sing. But Leo didn't change a thing. He sat down on the same piece of driftwood, tuned his guitar, and sang as he always had, simple, raw, honest. Except now his song carried further than ever. Not just across the waves but across the world, somewhere in London. A producer from Britain's Got Talent watched the viral video late at night. He paused halfway through the performance, then hit replay. "Who is this kid?" he murmured. A few hours later, an email was sent to Leo's small Gmail address. "Dear Mr. Santiago, we've seen your incredible video online. We'd like to invite you to audition for Britain's Got Talent in London." Leo read it 5 times, unable to believe the words. He turned to his mother, his hands trembling. "Ma, they want me to sing in London." His mother's eyes filled with tears again, this time of pride. "Then you must go, Anak. Sing for your father, sing for our country." Leo looked back at his old guitar. Its strings were rusty, its wood cracked, but it was his soul. He picked it up gently and smiled. For years, he had been the voice in the shadows, but now, the world was listening. The email kept replaying in Leo's head like a dream he was afraid to wake from. Britain's Got Talent London. Those words felt as distant and unreachable as the stars over Mabini's sea. He had never left Batangas, never even boarded a plane before. The thought of flying halfway across the world made his chest tighten. He sat quietly that night, the glow of the phone screen lighting up his humble bamboo hut. His mother, Aling Teresa, sat beside him, still in her faded duster, her hands folded in her lap. The air was filled with the sound of cicadas and the soft hum of the sea in the distance. "Anak," she said gently, "you must go. This is your father's dream for you. Remember, he always said you would sing for the world one day." Leo looked down at his guitar. The strings were dull, the body patched up with tape and glue. "Ma, I don't even have money for a passport, or a plane ticket." His mother smiled faintly. "Then we'll find a way. The Lord didn't bring this chance to our door for nothing." The next few weeks were a blur of impossible moments that somehow became real. The news of his invitation spread quickly through Mabini. The same people who used to buy fish from his mother now showed up at their small hut carrying envelopes, coins and food. A fisherman handed Leo a few folded bills. "For your ticket, Hijo, you made our town proud." A tricycle driver added, "You're carrying all of us when you sing up there." Soon, the whole village began fundraising, selling food, organizing small concerts by the pier, even children dropping coins into jars marked "Para que Kuya Leo." Every night, Leo sang for them in return. His songs were no longer just for his father. They were for everyone who had lifted him up when the world had ignored him. When the day finally came to leave, the entire town gathered at the small bus terminal. Mothers waved handkerchiefs. Kids held up signs drawn in crying,
Go Koya Leo, Mabini believes in you.
Leo hugged his mother tightly. She placed her calloused hands on his cheeks and said, "Wherever you go, never forget, sing with your heart, not your fear." He nodded, his throat tight. "I'll make you proud, Ma. I'll make him proud too." The flight to London was long and overwhelming. Leo sat by the window, staring at the endless clouds outside. He had never seen the world from this high. The noise of the airplane engines blended with the hum of his thoughts. Somewhere deep inside, he felt both excitement and dread. When the plane landed, he stepped out into a world of cold air and fast-moving strangers. London was grey and buzzing, the streets filled with people speaking languages he didn't understand. His guitar was strapped to his back, and a small backpack held everything he owned. He checked into a modest hostel arranged by the show's producers. That night, as rain tapped softly on the window, he couldn't sleep. He missed the smell of salt water, the noise of roosters at dawn, his mother's quiet humming as she cooked breakfast. For the first time he felt alone. But then he remembered something his father used to say, "The sea and the sky are the same everywhere, Anak. When you sing they'll recognize you." He took out his guitar and began to play softly, just enough to remind himself that home wasn't a place. It was the sound of his own heart. The next morning, a van picked him up along with other contestants. As they drove toward the massive theater, Leo's heart pounded. Cameras, lights, banners, everything was bigger than anything he had imagined. He saw people rehearsing, stylists adjusting clothes, producers rushing with clipboards. One of the staff approached him. "Leo Santiago, right? You're the guy from the viral video." He nodded shyly. She smiled warmly. "Everyone's been talking about you. Simon's really curious to see you perform." "Simon Cowell?" he asked, barely able to say the name. "The one and only," she said with a wink. His stomach flipped. He'd grown up watching Britain's Got Talent on old reruns, amazed by singers who seemed untouchable. And now, he was here, a simple fisherman's son about to stand on the same stage. Backstage, he sat quietly in a corner, cradling his guitar. Contestants around him were stretching, practicing, some even crying from nerves. He took a deep breath and prayed softly, "Lord, I don't ask to win. I just want to make them feel something real." When his name was finally called, he stood up slowly. The stage assistant opened the curtain, and Leo stepped into the blinding light. The massive theater stretched before him, thousands, judges seated in their iconic panel: Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, Alicia Dixon, and Bruno Tonioli. Simon leaned forward, adjusting his microphone. "Hello, what's your name, and where are you from?" Leo swallowed hard. My name is Leo Santiago, I'm from the Philippines. The audience cheered softly. Simon smiled. You came all the way from the Philippines. That's a long journey. What are you going to do for us tonight? I'll sing and play a song I wrote, Leo said, gripping his guitar. It's about my father, and about home. Simon nodded. Alright, we'd love to hear it. Good luck. The lights dimmed. A single spotlight fell on Leo. He closed his eyes, and for a brief moment the theater disappeared. He was back by the dock, the waves lapping softly at his feet. He began to strum. The melody was gentle, familiar, like the hum of the ocean at dusk. His voice followed, soft at first, then swelling with emotion. There's a voice in the wind calling me home, where the stars kiss the sea and I'm not alone. The crowd fell silent. His accent, his raw tone, it was unlike anything they had heard. Every word carried the weight of love, loss, and faith. When the chorus came, Leo lifted his eyes to the ceiling and for a moment, his voice broke. But instead of faltering, it deepened. The pain made it real. By the time the song ended, there wasn't a single sound in the hall. Then, one by one, the audience rose to their feet. Amanda covered her mouth. Bruno was clapping wildly. Simon sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he leaned into his mic and said, Leo, that was one of the most moving performances I've ever heard on this stage. You remind me of Freddie Aguilar. But you might even be better. The audience gasped. Leo's eyes widened. He couldn't believe what he'd heard. Simon continued, you have something that can't be taught. You sing truth. That's rare. The crowd erupted into cheers. Leo's heart raced as he bowed deeply. Clutching his guitar, he didn't win the show that night, but something far greater had begun. His father's voice, his mother's prayers, his village's faith, they had all traveled with him across the ocean. And now, the world was listening. The video of Leo's performance exploded across the internet overnight. Within hours, it had millions of views. People all around the world were talking about the boy from the Philippines who made Simon Cowell emotional. Clips of him singing flooded social media feeds, with comments pouring in from every corner of the globe. He sings with his soul. I felt every word even though I don't speak Tagalog. Simon's never praised anyone like that before. The next morning, Leo woke up to find himself trending everywhere. Reporters waited outside the studio. Fans called his name from behind barriers. Agents handed him business cards faster than he could take them. It was as if the entire world had opened its doors to him overnight, and yet inside Leo felt strangely quiet. He had spent years singing to the waves and stars, his only audience the sea breeze. Now, thousands cheered for him, but part of him still missed the silence of Mabini's shore. After his performance, the producers arranged interviews, press events, and talk show appearances. They wanted to capitalize on his viral fame. He smiled politely through every one, bowing and saying, thank you, to everyone who praised him. But each time someone called him the next Freddie Aguilar, something inside him stirred. He admired Freddie Aguilar deeply, yes, but he didn't want to replace anyone. He wanted to honor the songs that built him, the ones sung under the stars with his father beside him. Late one night, after another long media session, Leo returned to his small room. He placed his guitar on the bed and sat quietly staring at it. He missed home, the smell of salt, his mother's voice calling him to eat, the laughter of children running barefoot. His phone buzzed. It was a video call from his mother. Anak, she said cheerfully, her face lighting up the tiny screen. Behind her, neighbors waved and cheered.
We saw you on TV!
You made everyone cry. Leo smiled, his eyes welling with tears. Ma, I couldn't have done it without you. Without them. Everyone here is proud, she said, voice softening. But remember, Leo, fame fades. Kindness doesn't. Her words sank deep. He nodded, whispering, I'll remember, Ma. A few days later, the producers called him into a meeting. Sitting across from him was a stern-faced man in a sleek black suit, Mr. Reynolds, a high-profile music executive from London. Leo, he began, folding his hands. Your performance made quite the impact. We think you could be a global star. Leo blinked, unsure how to respond. Thank you, sir. We want to sign you to our label. Reynolds continued. You'll record in English, do collaborations, tours, the works. But we'll need to change your image a bit, modernize you. We'll get rid of the guitar, maybe use backing tracks instead. More pop, less folk, that'll sell better. Leo frowned. You mean no Tagalog songs? Reynolds smiled tightly. You can do one or two for your Filipino audience, but to succeed globally, you need to sound like everyone else. Think less local singer, more international act. Leo looked down at his guitar. His heart sank. Sir, my songs, they're not about selling. They're about telling stories. About home. The man leaned forward, voice firmer. Home won't get you on billboards, Leo. Fame requires sacrifice. Take it or leave it. Leo hesitated. The contract lay on the table, a golden ticket to a life of luxury, success and security. He thought about his mother struggling to pay bills, the townspeople who helped him, the chance to finally repay their kindness. But something in him resisted. He could almost hear his father's voice whispering over the waves. Don't sing for the world's applause, act. Sing for its soul. Leo excused himself politely and walked out into the cold London air. The city lights glittered like promises, bright, endless, and hollow. He found himself near the Thames River. The water shimmered under the bridge lights, reminding him of home. He sat down, pulled out his guitar, and began to play softly. He sang one of his father's old songs, about the sea, about longing, about love that survives storms. People walking by slowed down listening. A few dropped coins into his open guitar case, but Leo didn't care about that. For the first time in weeks, he felt alive. A few days later, he received another call, this time from Simon Cowell himself. "Leo," Simon said, his voice calm but direct, "I've been thinking about your performance. You've got something pure, something I haven't seen in years. The offers you're getting, be careful. Don't let anyone change who you are." Leo listened silently, deeply moved. "Thank you, sir. I'm trying to figure it out." Simon continued, "If you ever feel lost, remember, music isn't about fame. It's about truth." Freddie Aguilar never chased fame, he chased meaning. That's why people still sing his songs today. Leo smiled faintly. "That's what I want too." "Then follow your truth," Simon said simply. "The world will catch up." That night, Leo made his decision. He returned the unsigned contract to the producers. They were furious, calling him ungrateful, foolish, naïve. But Leo stood his ground. "I came here to sing my truth, not to sell it," he said quietly. With that, he packed his guitar and boarded a flight back to Manila. When he arrived, his village welcomed him like a hero. Children ran to meet him, mothers waved. His mother embraced him tightly, whispering, "You came home." Leo smiled. "Always, Ma." A few weeks later, he was invited to perform on a local TV show. The host asked, "Leo, after Simon Cowell called you better than Freddie Aguilar, why come back instead of staying abroad?" Leo paused, looking into the camera. "Because music isn't about being better. It's about being real. I want to sing for my people, for the kids who dream with nothing but hope. Fame fades, but songs of love, kindness, and home last forever." The studio erupted into applause. That same week, he announced a new project, The Songs of Home, a free music school for underprivileged kids in Batangas. With help from donations and supporters worldwide, he built a small center where children learn to play guitars, drums, and write songs. Leo taught them himself, sitting on the same old dock where his journey began. Sometimes, at sunset, he'd strum his father's guitar and smile as the kids sang along. Their voices, raw, joyful, imperfect, rose above the waves just as his once had. He realized then that he didn't need to be the next Freddie Aguilar. He just needed to be Leo, the boy who sang his truth, loved his people, and found his purpose through kindness. Months passed since Leo Santiago returned to the Philippines. The world had not forgotten him. Clips of his performance still circulated online, and his name was often spoken with pride by Filipinos everywhere. But Leo himself had stepped away from the noise of fame. He spent most of his days at the Songs of Home Center, a small wooden music school he had built near the shore, using part of the donations that flooded in after his story went viral. It wasn't much, just a few rooms made of bamboo and tin, painted with bright colors by local kids, but it pulsed with laughter, rhythm, and hope. Inside, children practiced chords on old guitars, others drummed on improvised boxes, and Leo guided them patiently, smiling as they found joy in every sound. Every afternoon after classes ended, Leo would sit by the dock and write songs. His inspiration came not from the pursuit of fame anymore, but from the lives of those around him. The fishermen who sang while repairing their nets, the mothers who hummed lullabies, and the children whose laughter defied poverty. Music had once been his escape, now it was his offering. One evening as the sun painted the sea gold, Leo sat surrounded by his students. "Kuya Leo," a little girl asked, clutching a small guitar with missing strings. "Do you miss London?" Leo chuckled softly, "Sometimes, but I think the stars here shine brighter. Will you sing for us again?" Another boy said eagerly. He nodded and tuned his guitar. "This one's new," he said. "I wrote it for all of you, and for every Filipino who still believes that dreams can rise from simple places." The children fell silent as Leo began to strum. His voice, gentle, deep, familiar, floated across the water. "From the shore where I was born, to the stars I once chased, I found the world. But the world found me right here where love never fades." The children clapped and sang along by the chorus. Their laughter echoed through the village, the kind that warms hearts more than applause ever could. And yet, that night, Leo didn't know that his song would soon reach millions once again. This time, not through a contest, but through compassion. The next morning, Leo was invited to perform at a benefit concert in Manila. A powerful typhoon had recently devastated parts of Mindoro and Leyte, leaving thousands homeless. The concert aimed to raise funds for relief efforts, and organizers hoped that Leo's story could bring people together. He hesitated at first. He hadn't stood on a big stage since London, but then he thought of the children who'd lost their schools, the families who'd lost everything, and he agreed. "If my song can help them rebuild," he told his mother, "then I'll sing until my voice gives out." The event took place at the Araneta Coliseum, packed with thousands of people. Lights shimmered across the crowd, banners read, "One Nation, One Song," and volunteers walked the aisles collecting donations. Backstage, Leo sat quietly, his guitar resting on his lap. He wasn't wearing anything fancy, just his favorite white shirt and jeans. He didn't have a stylist or backup dancers, he didn't want them. He wanted it to be real. A producer peeked in. "You're next, Leo, the whole country's watching live." Leo nodded, took a deep breath, and whispered a prayer. "For them, Lord, for those who need hope more than applause." When he stepped onto the stage, the audience erupted into cheers. The lights dimmed, and a single spotlight fell on him. For a moment, he stood perfectly still, gripping his guitar as silence filled the air. Then he began to play, the familiar melody he'd written for his students. But this time, it carried something deeper. "When the waves took our homes, when the storm stole the day, I found my voice not in crying, but in singing our pain away." The crowd listened in absolute stillness. His voice trembled on some notes, but it only made it more human. On the screen behind him, images of the typhoon's aftermath appeared, families helping one another, volunteers distributing food, children smiling amid broken homes. It wasn't tragedy on display, it was resilience. "And when the sky falls apart, we'll still hold our guitars, because the music of kindness can heal the deepest scars." By the final chorus, thousands of people were on their feet, swaying, tears glistening in their eyes. Some in the crowd clasped hands, others hugged strangers beside them. Leo stepped back from the mic and let the audience sing the last lines with him. "We are one heart, one song, one nation strong." When it ended, the lights came up to reveal people crying, smiling, clapping through their tears. The energy in the air was unlike anything Leo had felt before. It wasn't fame, it was unity. Even the show hosts backstage were in tears. One whispered to another, "He just did more for this country in 5 minutes than most politicians in years." That performance went viral almost immediately. Not because Simon Cowell had praised him this time, but because Filipinos everywhere felt healed. His song became an anthem for rebuilding. It played on radio stations, relief trucks, and even in classrooms. Volunteers began to call it the song of hope. People sang it while repairing homes, comforting each other, and rebuilding their lives. Soon, international news picked it up again. A BBC reporter called it the song that reminded the world what Filipino spirit truly means. But Leo didn't take credit. When asked about it in an interview, he simply said, "It wasn't my song, it was ours. Every person who chose love over despair wrote it with me." A few weeks later, as the relief efforts continued, Leo received an unexpected message from Simon Cowell himself. "Leo, I saw your performance for the typhoon victims. That was beyond music. You're not just an artist, you're a healer. Freddie Aguilar moved a generation. You're moving the world." Leo smiled when he read it, sitting under the same bamboo roof where his journey had begun. He whispered, "Salamat po, Simon, but I'm just singing what my people taught me, how to love." One afternoon, as the tide rolled in, a boy from his music school approached him. He held a piece of paper with scribbled lyrics. "Kuya Leo," he said shyly, "I wrote a song too. It's about helping others even when you're sad." Leo took the paper, read the words and smiled. "That's beautiful, Illy. Would you like to sing it for everyone?" The boy nodded, and soon the group of children gathered around. Leo strummed the chords as Eli sang, his voice small but sincere. As the song ended, the children clapped and laughed, the sound of hope echoing once more across the sea. Leo looked out at the horizon, tears in his eyes, realizing something profound. He had once dreamed of becoming famous. But the real dream had always been this, to pass on the rhythm of kindness, one heart at a time. And that was the moment Leo truly understood what his father had meant all those years ago. The sea listens to those who sing with truth. Now, the whole world was listening. The sun was setting over the small coastal town of Batangas, painting the sky in orange and pink hues. The air was soft with the scent of sea salt and mango trees, and laughter echoed from a nearby basketball court where children played barefoot. Leo Santiago sat quietly on a bamboo bench outside the Songs of Home Center, the humble school he had built from dreams and love. His guitar rested across his lap, the wood polished smooth by years of playing. He wasn't preparing for a concert or a TV show this time. He was waiting. For his students, for their voices, for the next song that would carry their hearts further than fame ever could. Inside the small classroom, walls were covered with handwritten lyrics, paper stars, and photographs of children performing at school events. A faded banner hung above the stage, "Music heals." It wasn't perfect, letters were uneven, and tape curled at the corners, but to Leo, it was more beautiful than any golden plaque. Tonight was special. It marked 1 year since his song "One Heart, One Song" had been released. Across the nation, radio stations still played it every Independence Day. Schools used it to teach lessons about unity and compassion. But for Leo, this anniversary wasn't about numbers or awards. It was about gratitude, about the people who believed in kindness even when life gave them every reason not to. As twilight deepened, villagers began arriving, parents, fishermen, street vendors, even tricycle drivers. Some brought food, others instruments. The children from Leo's class ran around, giggling, setting up chairs and string lights that twinkled like tiny stars.
Kuya Leo!
We fixed the speakers, shouted Illy, the shy boy who'd once written his own song. Leo smiled. Good job, Lee. Tonight, you'll perform that song again. Ha! Lee blushed but nodded proudly. He was taller now, more confident, his small guitar hanging from his shoulder like a badge of honor. The night began with a gentle rhythm of drums made from tin cans. Children sang songs about home, about hope. Their parents clapped along, eyes shining. When Leo finally walked up to the small stage, the crowd erupted in cheers. Not the roaring kind from stadiums, but warm, heartfelt applause that said, "We're proud of you, one of our own." He adjusted the microphone, smiling shyly. "Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat," he greeted. "I used to dream of performing in the biggest arenas. But tonight I realize, the most beautiful stage in the world is right here where I belong." The crowd cheered again, some whistling, some laughing through their tears. He strummed a chord and silence fell. "This song," he said softly, "isn't new. But every time I sing it, it reminds me that no matter how far we go, our hearts always find their way back home." Then he sang, "From the shore where I was born, to the stars I once chased, I found the world, but the world found me, right here where love never fades." As he sang, people joined in, the elderly woman who sold rice at the market, the young man who drove a jeepney, the mother who'd lost her husband in the typhoon but still smiled for her children. Their voices blended into one, the voice of a people who refused to let hardship silence them. Tears rolled down Leo's face as he looked out at them. This wasn't just a concert, it was a miracle made of humanity. After the last note faded, Leo stepped back, wiping his eyes. He took a deep breath, scanning the faces before him. "You know," he began, his voice breaking slightly, "when I first sang in London, I thought success was about applause, about lights, fame, and big words from famous people." He paused, looking at the children sitting cross-legged in front of the stage. "But then I came home, and I realized, success is when your song becomes their song. When someone smiles again because of a melody you wrote, when people start believing in kindness again." The audience was quiet, hanging on his every word. Leo looked toward the stars and continued, "My father used to tell me, the sea listens to those who sing with truth. I never understood it before, but now, when I hear you all sing together, I know he was right. The sea is listening. The world is listening, because your voices are true." The applause rippled through the crowd, slow at first, then thunderous. Some people stood, cheering his name, others cried openly, holding hands. It was a moment where everyone felt connected, not by blood or fame but by compassion. Later that night, after the celebration ended and the village grew quiet, Leo sat alone by the shore. The moon shimmered on the water and gentle waves lapped at his feet. He thought about everything. The poverty, the struggle, the fame, the letters from Simon Cowell, and the children's laughter that now filled his days. He picked up his guitar and began to hum softly. A small voice interrupted. "Kuya Leo." It was Ellie again, holding 2 cups of warm cocoa. "Mama said you might be tired." Leo smiled. "Salamat, Eli. You did amazing tonight." Eli sat beside him, legs dangling over the edge. "Kuya," he said after a moment, "do you think I can make songs like you someday?" Leo looked at him, eyes gentle. "No," he said softly. Eli's smile faltered for a second, until Leo added, "Because you'll make songs better than mine." The boy's eyes lit up. "Promise," Leo said. "Just remember, sing with kindness, not pride, play for hearts, not applause, and if you ever forget, listen to the sea. It always reminds you who you are." Eli leaned his head on Leo's shoulder. "The sea listens to those who sing with truth," he whispered, repeating Leo's father's words. Leo nodded, tears glimmering under the moonlight. "That's right, anak, always." Years later, Leo's story would become part of the Philippines' cultural legacy. Schools taught his songs alongside Freddie Aguilar's Anak. His name appeared in textbooks, not as a celebrity but as Leo Santiago, the musician who healed hearts. And in Batangas, that same small bamboo music center still stood, stronger, larger, filled with laughter and rhythm. On the front wall hung a sign carved in wood, "The Songs of Home, where every voice matters." Inside, children continued to learn, to sing, to hope. And every time they performed, they began with Leo's song, their voices rising together like waves against the shore. "We are one heart, one song, one nation strong." One afternoon, long after Leo had passed his torch to a new generation, a little girl visiting from another town asked her teacher, "Miss, who was Leo Santiago?" The teacher smiled warmly and pointed toward a framed photograph on the wall. A man holding a guitar, eyes full of kindness. He was someone who showed the world that music isn't about being heard, it's about making others feel seen. The girl looked at the picture, smiled, and whispered, "I want to sing like him someday." And outside, beyond the walls of that small school, the wind carried faint echoes of Leo's melody. Blending with the laughter of children, the crash of waves, and the endless heartbeat of a nation that still remembered his truth. Because legends aren't made by fame. They are born from love that refuses to fade.